2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay.
Where's Andy?
Oh, we have nothing to drink? We spent all this money and now we have nothing to drink? Can I get some water?
Please.
So congratulations to Felix and the team that made all this possible. Great moment, great day for celebration. Start this right away because the satellite feed, I think, for the web portion of this runs out in a half an hour. There's a couple of things that people have asked me, those on deadline, to get straightened out right away. So let me just immediately ask Brian for the numbers. A lot of people wanted the numbers.
Thank you. First, let me say that on behalf of the FAI, the Fédération Avion Internationale, and the National Aeronautic Association, and the United States Parachute Association, and my colleague Jeff blank moment, who have helped to put this, to track this program and monitor it and observe the performance of each of the 5 flights, the 3 test flights and the two test flights and the 3 manned flights. It's been our pleasure to work with this group, and I must tell you that based on the experience that we've had together, lots of trials, lots of issues, lots of problems. They've all been overcome. It's an absolutely fantastic team, and I think I just have to compliment Art here for Sage Cheshire. And of course, our star, Felix, for his daring, his bravado, but it's not just daring and bravado. He's a skilled person and he's a determined leadership type person. So it's been my pleasure. And of course, with the rest of the team has been a wonderful team to work with. So it's made my job easy. And what I do is I monitor each of the attempts at records. It's something that we do regularly. We have processes for doing it because what we want to do is we want to preserve the integrity of the record system. When someone says they have a world record, it means something and we can prove it. We have the data, we have the audit trail that says this in fact is what happened and we can stand behind it. With respect to today's performance, what I will be giving you will be preliminary data. It is the data that I have looked at. I feel comfortable in telling you that it is preliminary data. I will be submitting it to the international bodies for certification. I will be, as I do that, I will give preliminary data to the international body that will be released, and then I will submit a formal final report which will result in the final world record statements. So with that, let me go into the record side of what happened today. First, there were 3 records that we are talking about. One is the highest jump, called an exit from a platform. The second is the longest free fall without a drogue chute. That starts at the highest altitude and it stops when the chute is deployed. And the third is the maximum, the highest vertical velocity, again without a drogue chute. So let me go through the numbers in that order. The exit altitude that Felix jumped from was 128,100 feet, 39,045 meters. His free fall time was approximately 4 minutes and 20 seconds. His free fall distance was 119,846 feet, or 36,529 meters, which makes Felix the highest human to have flown a capsule. I don't believe anyone else has done this, and I'm saying this off the cuff. I don't really have anything to verify, but that is my understanding. Then comes the velocity, the maximum velocity. I think everyone is waiting for this. For the records, the velocity is measured in meters per second of fall. The speed was 373 meters per second. That is 1,342.8 kilometers per hour, which is 833.9 miles an hour. And for those... and that translates into Mach 1.24. So I'm very, very, very pleased to make this announcement, and I congratulate Felix for a job well done, for his stick-to-itiveness. In spite of the problems that we had on Tuesday, he didn't back away. He's a true champion. He said, we'll do it. And the whole team said, we'll do it. And I can just tell you, I'm here to tell you what they did. So thank you very much. Okay, quickly. Exit altitude, 128,100 feet, which is 100, which is 39,045 meters. The free fall time, 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Free fall distance, 119,846 feet, or 36,529 meters. The maximum velocity, 373 meters per second, 1,342.8 kilometers per hour, and 833.9 miles per hour.
And Mach
1.24.
And one other piece of business that an awful lot of people have asked for from Felix. Everybody wants to know what it was you said as you were getting ready to jump.
Well, first of all, these are some mind-blowing numbers, but I couldn't have done it without my team, because you're only as good as your team is, and I want to say thank you to everybody who was joining my dream. And let me tell you, when I was standing there on top of the world, you become so humble. You do not think about breaking records anymore. You do not think about gaining scientific data. The only thing that you want is you want to come back alive, you know, because you do not want to die in front of your parents, your girlfriend, and all these people watching this. This became the most important thing to me when I was standing out there.
And what was it that you said?
I said, I know the whole world is watching now, and I wish the world could see what I see. And sometimes you have to go up really high to understand how small you are.
Let me open it to questions from the floor.
Felix, Jorge Pontoff from Global Brazil. What made you open the parachute at that moment? You decided that that was the moment to open it?
Well, we had a plan, with a protocol, and that said we have to open at 5,000 feet, because it still gives me enough time. If something goes wrong with my main parachute, I have to release that parachute. And it's not that easy if you're in a pressure suit. And it's already low enough if I need medical treatment. That's why we selected 5,000 feet. And I think I pulled at 5,200. You gotta stick to the plan.
Felix, what was it like dealing with all the delays? I know you actually were in the capsule earlier this week and then have to be taken out of it. I guess, what is that emotion like to be told you have to wait, you have to wait, you have to wait?
Well, it is so tough, because just the fact that you cannot get sick, just the flu, means we have to abort that mission. And you're surrounded by so many people. A lot of people are coughing, you know. So it requires a lot of discipline, not getting sick. Then I didn't get much sleep all the other days, and you get up early in the morning, you get in that capsule, you have that delay, you're sitting there trapped in your pressure suit, and it takes forever to go up. And then we had this drama with the face shield heating, and by the time when you up at 127,000 feet, you're already totally exhausted, you know. But this is the moment where it still starts, so you have to perform at a certain level, at 100% level, and this was tough. Believe me, I've never anticipated that it's going to be so tough.
Felix, can you describe the feeling when you're traveling at that speed? What was that like for you? And can you also describe, please, when you seem to go into, at least it looked to us amateurs, kind of like a flat spin, or at least a spin of some sort. What was that like?
Well, it started really good because my exit was perfect. I did exactly what I was supposed to do. And then I was falling over. This is what we anticipated because we had this on manned 1 and manned 2. And it looked like for a second I'm going to tumble 2 more times and then I have it under control. But for some reason, that spin became so violent over all axes, and it was hard to know how to get out of that spin. Because if you're trapped in a pressure suit, normally as a skydiver you can feel the air, so you get a direct feedback from the air. But here you're trapped in this suit, and this suit is pressurized for 3.5 psi, so you do not feel the air. It's like swimming without touching the water. And it's hard because every time when it turns you around, you have to figure out what to do. So I was sticking my arm out, then it became worse. So I was putting my arm out on the other side, then it became less. So I was fighting all the way down to regain control because I wanted to break the speed of sound. And I had it. I don't know, after how many seconds I could feel air was building up, and then I had it.
Juan Carlos Yorca with the Associated Press. Could you describe the exact feeling of breaking the speed of sound? How does it feel?
It's hard to describe because I didn't feel it. You know, when you're in that pressure suit, you don't feel anything. It's like being in a cast, and it happened somehow down the line, you know. I don't know, we have to look at the data, at what point. Was I still spinning or was already under control? We have to look at the data, but I didn't feel it at all. Because the thing is, if you want to judge speed, you got reference points that passing by, or you have a sound, or your suit is flapping. I have none of these signs, so you don't know how fast you travel.
Let's hear from Joe for a minute. There were a lot of problems and tension along the way. How did you manage that, and how do you see that when you have that triumphant ending?
It was a challenge. We had a team. We worked together. Felix and I had worked together 100 times during the practice. So when we had a problem arise, we worked together as a team to come up with a solution. And Felix did perfect. He took the options that were available and made the right decision. But it was a team effort, and Felix did a fantastic job. And it was an honor for all of us to work with this brave guy.
Any questions?
Felix, quick question. After you came out of that role, you sort of managed to get your wits about you, it seemed like, and we of course only saw a little dot on the infrared camera, but you obviously got control. You either made a sound or tried to say something, and it put a big smile on your mom's face. I'm wondering if you were just trying to make a sound, or were you trying to communicate with the folks back here that you were okay?
No, I was trying to talk all the way down, you know, give Joe a direct feedback, what's going on. And I was talking and talking. I don't know if you guys have heard me. Joe said he heard a couple things, but I was talking because that was part of the protocol as well.
Any idea what you were saying?
Well, I was talking about the altitude that I'm falling through, then my visor starts fogging up on the way down. So I told Joe, hey, I really have to pull before my visor's getting fogged up because I don't see anything. So it's not that easy. When you fall at that speed, going through all these emotions, it's not that easy to talk, but at least I put out a couple words for you guys.
What you were feeling, Felix, when your visor started to fog up? What were you feeling?
At the end of my skydive or in the capsule?
When it first started happening.
Well, at a certain time, it looked like this is going to be a mission abort because we had this in our what-if list. If you cannot see anything, you cannot leave that capsule. So you have to remain seated. And it was not super bad, but it would slowly start building up frost on my visor. So we had to talk back and forth, and we came up with some solutions, and then we all agreed on pressing this through, and we did it, you know.
In Brazil, we love that picture of you standing on the hand of Christ a moment before you jump. What went through your head today in that moment before you jump?
Well, I thought, please God, don't let me down. But if you're standing in his son's arm, you know, nothing can go wrong at that moment. That was what I was thinking.
That was the lowest jump, and this is the highest.
Hi, Felix. Was there ever a point where you felt I'm in real trouble here, or did you feel like you had it under control at all times, even during the spin?
No, there was a period of time where I really thought I'm in trouble because I have a manual push button where I can release a drogue chute, which pulls me out of the flat spin. But at the same time, I knew if I push that button, this thing is all over. We're not going to fly supersonic. And it's hard when you fall down at that speed. You have to make that decision. You know, somehow you have to make that call. Do I push that button and stay alive, or do I fight all my way down and break the speed of sound? And after a couple of seconds, I had that feeling. I get it under control, and I did. And that's the reason why we broke the speed of sound today.
John Tierney, New York Times. What happened when you went into that spin? I mean, how did that happen, and what happened that was unexpected about that?
It's hard to tell what happened because I have to look at the video footage. The exit, as I said early on, was pretty perfect, and then somehow it starts spinning. Yeah, there's nothing that I can tell you. I have to look at the footage.
Now, was that a flat spin you went into, or a tumble, or?
It felt like a flat spin. I think I spun over all three axes, and for a couple seconds I had that feeling that it was a flat spin, you know, which is that spin that we fear the most, because this is what gives you a readout.
Mm-hmm.
That means your blood is going into your head, and you cannot take that for a long period of time.
Now, how did you feel physically at that moment? Did you feel anything in your eyes or your head, or?
Well, I had a lot of pressure in my head, but I didn't feel like I'm passing out. I was still feeling, okay, I think I can handle this situation, and I did.
Brian Utley has asked to say something.
Yes, I just want to add one additional comment. Because Felix is Austrian, these records that he sets will be submitted to the Aerosport Club of Austria for certification as national records in Austria, and I did want to make that point.
And Art Thompson, what can you say, having managed this whole thing from the beginning?
Well, there was a concern when we started seeing an issue with the faceplate heating and trying to figure out was there an issue with the rheostat in the capsule, or if it was working, wasn't working. Really the biggest concern from the team is making sure that we know that Felix is comfortable with what he has assets to. He has to feel comfortable with his position and know what his options are. And so that's why we start communicating to figure out what is the plan, how do we figure out, is it in the capsule system, is it in the chest pack, is it something that he's still not quite sure whether it was or wasn't. And so we come up with a plan on disconnecting the capsule system, going onto the chest pack to verify that the system would go to full heat, because then it's telling us what's going to happen when he exits out. That's important level with where we're at, because he has to have confidence in what he's about to do. The spin issue where he goes into a tumble, one of the concerns is that as the tumble occurs and ramps up in speed, it gets more and more difficult for Felix to stop, because as he's putting out an arm to stop it coming one direction, that same arm out to slow you down, as you spin around to the opposite side, it's actually increasing your speed. So for Felix to try and control that becomes an incredible challenge. We're just glad that he was able to get it under control, because at some point you could see a beautiful step off, very controlled. As he was reaching mach, you could see that his positioning was really good. And then he went into a tumble, which again, you know, it's a very small dot, so we have to analyze the accelerometer, XYZ accelerometer, to see what it's telling us, what was happening, how many times he spun, and all that data will be analyzed. But the big thing is that as he regained control of that, you could see his flight path was completely controlled. He was in free fall. He was in a delta position, tracking very well. And that's really part of what this program was to achieve, was to show high altitude egress, passing through Mach, and a successful reentry back. Because our belief is that scientifically, that's going to benefit future private space programs or high altitude pilots. And Felix proved that today. He did an outstanding job as a test pilot.
That goes right to Dr. John Clark, I think, about, I was going to ask you about the scientific side of this. What do you think we learned or are apt to learn as we analyze the data and its value? What it be used for?
Well, at first I'd like to say that usually when a doctor shows up at a press conference, we're having a bad day. So, you know, the reality is that we have a great scientific team that's augmented the technical team that built the capsule, the balloon, the parachute, the space suit, all that. And we've tried to compile all the scientific data. We've got a great group with Andy Walsh and the high performance Red Bull team, and Mike Gervais, who helped with psychological conditioning. First of all, Felix had a monitoring system on. We're going to spend a lot of time going through that data. It's going to break incredible new grounds. We had anticipated flat spin as a potential problem, and we had a plan to deal with it. We had the drogue chute. We had the fact that Felix was aware of it and wasn't overcome by that surprise. Certainly when you see the spin, you would anticipate, wow, that would be very disorienting, or even potentially cause you to be motion sick. And Felix, you know, he just did, like a champ, he went right through it, and he waited. He knew he was going to come out of it. He knew he was going to gain control, and he did. And to me, it shows the fortitude and the dedication and the focus that he has, because this was not an easy task. And just like Joe's jump, during his ascent, he had a suit failure in the glove, and he pressed on. And Felix had an issue with his visor, and it was a calculated risk, and he pressed on. And it again shows the courage and determination that he has. And you know, the world needs a hero, and today they got one.
Other questions from the floor?
Oh, yeah. Felix, Merlin Scholz for German newspaper Bild. Can you put this jump in comparison to all the other jumps that you've done before? Before you said it's going to be your biggest jump, but now once you've done it, can you tell us, like, what is the big difference to the other jumps you have done?
Well, I have done a lot of base jumps, which is a total different ballgame, because you only have one chute. Most of the time you jump off from low objects, and I did a lot of famous buildings and objects in the world. Later on, I was crossing the English Channel, which was also kind of a scientific program, with a carbon fiber wing strapped to my back, flew 22 miles across the English Channel. But that team was much smaller. This time, this thing was almost blown out of proportion, dealing with so many different characters and egos and scientists and problems. You know, it was a big attempt, and there's a reason why nobody was ever able to break Joe Kittinger's record for 52 years, because it is a difficult task.
Was there some point when you thought this might be too big?
Many times, honestly, you know. But I have my own system how to work with things like this. I break it down to smaller portions, you know, and I don't look at the very end of the project. I was always looking forward to the next task, because if we do not pass the next task, we're not moving forward. So every time when those guys were giving me a challenge, I was trying to meet that challenge, you know, to satisfy these guys, and then we moved on to the next challenge. And after 5 years, we're there.
So, Carsten Lüb from German television. A question, I'm not quite sure if Felix knows. Where did you land, or where did he land, and where did you find the capsule? I suppose he got it. I mean, how far away from here? Who knows?
Yeah, that leads to Mike Todd, yes.
Yeah, Mike Todd.
He's in charge of the capsule.
I don't know where the capsule landed. We were on our way back when they cut it loose. He landed about 37 to 40 miles away, and was right beside a highway, one of the major highways, and we had lost contact with him during his descent under the parachute, but we were able to reacquire, and we followed him down, dumped smoke out where he wanted it, and he located his own landing spot and went in there and landed just like he was on a regular jump. So.
I know where the capsule landed. It landed in New Mexico.
Yeah, Mike is with the recovery team for Felix as his main task. He immediately goes to the helicopters, which are using a tracking device to follow where Felix is to make sure they're there as he lands, ideally to have smoke down. Did you see any smoke?
Oh yeah, a lot.
Okay, good. And the capsule, it's cut down shortly after Felix's exit because we can't let it continue on in deep into Texas, and so there's a limitation. So the capsule was cut away from the balloon while Felix was still in descent, and it was 55 miles east, okay, east of where Felix was. So 55 miles east of Felix. So. Yeah, the highest winds too, something of interest, that the balloon and the capsule were traveling was about 120 miles to the east, 120 miles an hour to the east, which is pretty impressive. There aren't a lot of balloons that have traveled that fast, especially at that altitude with a person on board.
So Felix, what's next? What do you do to top this?
Well, honestly, I want to inspire the next generation. I would love, in 4 years, sitting at the same spot that Chuck Yeager is sitting here, and there's a young guy sitting right next to me and asking for advices because he wants to break my record.
Felix, Gernot Bachler from Austrian newspaper Kronenzeitung. Of all the moments today, which was the most exciting and most beautiful, and which of the records you probably received today makes you the most proud, the proudest?
I think the most exciting moment was when I was standing outside on top of the world, just 30 seconds before I'm stepping off. The most beautiful moment was when I was standing at the landing area and Mike Todd showed up. And he had a smile like a little kid. He was, he became like my mom of all these years because he was always dressing me up for tests and for skydives, you know, and we became real friends. And I think I became like his son, so he was so happy when he saw me on the ground alive.
Yes.
And that was the best moment today.
That's to say the least. I was looking around for the doctor. My heart was pounding so hard. I was looking around for the doctor because I didn't think that was right. So.
We lose the satellite that's moving this to the web, which is not a consequence for the people who are here. But I just wanted to say to people listening on the web, a lot of people sent in questions through Twitter, and I didn't ask any of them because all the same questions came out from the press here. So I just wanted to explain that to the people who sent in questions. Are there more from the floor here?
Colonel Kittinger, if I understand well, you still hold the record for the longest free fall. How do you feel about that?
Well, records are meant to be broken, and a better athlete, and he did a fantastic job today. And I'd like to give a special one-finger salute to all the folks that said he was going to come apart when he went supersonic. Hoorah! Hoorah!
Other questions? This has sort of been answered, but since this comes from USA Today, I should ask it for Marco Della Cava, who sent it in. He wanted to know from Felix, was this a sent for Marco Della Cava, who sent it in? He wanted to know from Felix, was this a